Good afternoon. My name's Shawn Kane, and I'm a member of the AMSSM Publications Committee. And the purpose of this video is over the next few minutes is just kind of talk about how to get involved with academic writing and peer reviewing and how to become an editor or get involved with editing. I will say my journey, if you asked me when I started my career or finished up my sports medicine fellowship about 18 or so years ago, I would have said there's no way I would have ever ended up a journal editor. I wrote one publication to get into fellowship and one publication while I was in fellowship, and I really didn't think I'd ever have any interest in it. But I realized as I did it, I actually started to enjoy it. I found it rewarding, a rewarding experience, helped me learn a lot, made me, I think, a better physician. And that led to other opportunities. I'd write an article and then somebody would ask me to come and present about it, or write another article, or have people reach out to you. So it was personally and professionally rewarding, and led to some other opportunities. And so now I'm super excited that I got those opportunities. And hopefully one of my goals is to encourage others that are maybe on the fence about doing this, to get them involved. So it can be hard to publish a paper. Any one of us who've ever done it know that, it's especially if you're a clinician and, your real job is to just see patients all day. It can be hard. It does take a little bit of time and effort. And so how can we do it though? Because again, I think it is rewarding. I think the biggest way to start, and what I recommend, is that you partner and you join forces with folks. If you're a senior, more experienced author and you've written a lot of stuff, invite or bring along a junior author, a new faculty member or resident, to help get them involved. Maybe give them the bug or plant the seed in them. And then you can also kind of give back to the community and get other people involved. If you're junior and you're a junior faculty or you're a fellow or resident, ask. If you know a senior clinician or physician in your department does a lot of publishing, ask them to help you out. If you work at an academic institution, reach out and, if there's a topic you're interested in, find somebody there and work with them. Collaboration. To be part of a team, a writing team, is awesome, and you can get a lot of experience and exposure. And it's a good way to start. And so if you just ask, you'll find out that a lot of people are willing to help you and be involved in that. The other thing is, opportunities come up. If you're interested in it, don't shy away. If there's an opportunity to be part of a writing group for your professional organization, whether it's AMSSM or whatever your medical specialty is, volunteer, nominate yourself. I mean, you have to kind of use the old quote, you have to be in it to win it. You get that opportunity, you get involved, you make a name for yourself, you learn a lot, and then you get invited back. And it can be tricky. It's hard. You have to have experience to get in, and how do you get that experience? So I would just say, ask around. Don't be afraid to submit something and have it rejected. That's part of the process, unfortunately. But just keep asking, keep working on it, and then sooner or later, you'll get involved. I started out, right, like I said, I wrote a couple papers, and then I was asked to be a peer reviewer. And peer reviewers are an amazing part, probably one of the more important parts of the process. Every journal needs peer reviewers. As the editor of Current Sports Medicine Reports, which is the American College of Sports Medicine's clinical journal, I always need peer reviewers. There's never enough of them. And so I was asked to do that and found it very rewarding and interesting. And again, got to learn a lot, got to see a lot of great things being published, got to help make them better. And as a result of that, peer reviewing, then I was asked by the current editor-in-chief at the time if I would be interested in being a section editor. And so our journal, the Current Sports Medicine Reports, is broken up. It's 12 issues a year, so one a month. And each edition has its own section, has its own topic. And so I was asked to be that section editor. And as a result of that experience, I had the opportunity to go find articles, recruit authors, and that kind of stuff. It was, I found it incredibly rewarding. And when the editor-in-chief position came open, I applied and got that. And it's been one of the best personally and professionally rewarding experiences of my life. And I highly encourage folks, to consider it and to get involved. So how does it work? So every journal is a little bit different. My journal, we have, the editor-in-chief, that's me. So I was selected by the national organization to run it. So I'm overall in charge, of the operation of it, the content, what we put in it, what we don't, how, and the process. You have a team though working with you, and probably the most important member of that team is your managing editor. And this, I would say, is kind of the professional editor, professional journal writer, journal leader from your organization. That managing editor can be from either the national organization that sponsors the journal, or it can come from the publisher. And that person's key because hopefully they've been there for a while. They know what works. They know what does not work. They've seen topics come in and they know what you've done. They also have ready access to it, so you can make sure you don't write 10 papers about the same topic, etc. And that person is kind of your right-hand person, your go-to. They're going to be there after you, and they've been there before you. So they're a great source of information and can be a great confidant. And then from there, like I said, we have these sections, or some places call them content editors, and they're in charge of their section. They have one edition a year that they're responsible for recruiting articles for, case studies, etc., and getting them through the peer review process. And one of the challenges is the timeline. To publish an edition in, say, June, it has to be done and in and ready to get to the publisher, say, in like February, maybe March at the latest. So, there is a lot of backwards planning that's involved, and you need to give, the authors enough time and the peer reviewers. So unfortunately, it's not one of those things where if the edition's getting published in June, on May 31st at midnight, you're still cranking it out. There's a lot of planning that goes involved, and, to get it done and in on time. But I let all my section editors kind of run their show. I don't micromanage them. They are responsible for the content. If they need help, I will, reach out to them, or they can reach out to me and I will help them out. Every edition has some things in it that I'm responsible for, but we make sure that they have all the room they need for their content. The only time I really get involved is if, maybe they have a question about the peer reviews. Maybe it's kind of a tie. They got, some accept, some reject, etc. Or if they're one of the authors on a paper, then I become kind of the section editor for that. So, but they are in charge of their sections. Along with that, there's an editorial board of the journal, and these are, maybe kind of some of the content experts, if you want to call them, kind of like your distinguished professors or professor emerituses. And, it's a wide range of folks that sometimes it's maybe mostly just a title. But at the same point, these are people that, if needed, we call on them to, again, get their expertise if we need a decision or some other recommendations. And then one thing that I have, and I think is incredibly important, is to have kind of a set of senior editors. And this is kind of 3 or 4 folks, and these are kind of my go-to folks when I need advice, if I have a question or wondering which way to go. This includes some of the former section or former journal editors, as well as some other just experts in the field and just go-to folks, because you're always going to need help in figuring stuff out. So for us and for me, we know every year that, what edition happens in what month. about a year or so ago, year and a half ago, we decided, as a group that we wanted to do a special edition on mental health. And so as a result, we put together, that team with our, section editors and the senior editors, and we came up with a special edition, which required some moving around of journal titles or subjects. So as the editor in chief, I mean, you have a lot of leeway, and you can, create those special editions. You're kind of the final person that decides whether or not, something gets submitted or not. So it's a great experience that has come with a lot of learning as we go. How do you get articles is always a good question. And there's two types of journals out there. There's journals that are recruited and unrecruited. So CSMR is a recruited journal. So the section editors and myself, we go out and we recruit people, to write articles. And how do you do that? The way I've done it is I will go through annual meetings and listen to somebody give a talk, and then go up and ask them, hey, would you be interested in writing this? Or you see a poster. People, can nominate themselves, but we go out and we ask. And part of that is so because of that timeline and the commitment, you want to make sure that, your authors can meet it. So you want to find trustworthy folks, and you just don't want to be, hoping they get in their article, or else your edition with 4 or 5 articles all of a sudden becomes a 1 article edition because people didn't make their deadlines. That's a big deal. So we're recruited. Now it's still peer reviewed, and our acceptance rate is high. It is not 100%, because unfortunately, even people you recruit turns out to maybe not write good articles and don't send in good manuscripts. So they get peer reviewed, and some of them still get rejected. So there's no guaranteed publication. It still has to go through the editing process and peer review, but it does help. And when the authors, you can usually get them to complete it for you. Unrecruited journals are, a lot of the other things that are out there. So we have, open access journals, sometimes kind of like a pay to publish. And then there's all the other, the bigger journals out there. So like the British Journal of Sports Medicine, Medicine, Science, and Sports and Exercise. And these are, anybody can submit an article to them. And so they get huge numbers of submissions. And so their acceptance rate is pretty low, and the bar is pretty high, to get published in there. And sometimes it can take a while to get an answer back. You can submit something and, it's crickets, and you never know how long it's going to take. And you keep checking the web page and it says pending peer review or pending. So there is a pro and a con to submitting to one of those bigger journals. And maybe at the start, to get some confidence and get good at it, getting something recruited, it will help you out. Because again, it's not a sure thing, but it's pretty sure. And then I've also had the privilege to edit, some textbooks. I think textbooks still exist. I'm not quite sure if they still get published, but at one point they did. And that's a similar process. Usually you have kind of some senior editors, and those might be the big names on the textbook. And then usually there's some, subsection editors, and it's really about workload management, trying to divide up the work, and also gives multiple layers of quality control as you go through. And so you might be the, a subsection editor, and get the chance to be in charge of, say, 5 or 6 chapters, and then you go through them, and then you have a higher level editor that goes through it, and it's another experience. And I would say it's great to ask when you're a member of an organization that's in the process of doing it, and they put out a call. Again, it's free to ask, and that's the best way to do it. And you can start out being the subsection editor, then maybe a section editor, and then finally one day, you could be the person with your name on the textbook that everybody's quoting. So in conclusion, what I'd like to just share with everybody is, this process can be frustrating and it can be challenging, but can also be incredibly rewarding. And, the best way to get involved with it is ask. This is a great opportunity to mentor people. And this is also a great opportunity to be mentored. And so by reaching out to folks and doing it, and, I think maybe once you do it once, maybe you kind of get the bug and you get the itch and you enjoy it, and then you can do it again and again. And like I said at the start, that's how I got into it. And I would have never, ever thought that to this day I would be doing this kind of stuff. So I would highly encourage folks to, one, if they have an interest in writing an article, to submit it to a journal. To submit it as a publication or a poster at a meeting, and then submit it again after that, and whatever journal you can get it in, and to get going. A lot of times journals from national organizations will publish a list that they're looking to have somebody write an article on these topics. Submit your name as being interested in it. If you don't reach out to folks, it's going to be hard for them to find you. So keep throwing your name out there, and sooner or later it will happen. And I think you'll find it enjoyable. If there's any questions, obviously this was a pretty brief kind of overview on how to get involved in this, and it's how I got involved. It's not the way to get involved, but I'm glad to share my experience and to help other folks out now to get involved in this. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. My email is shkane at email.unc.edu. I'm also, as a member of AMSSM, I'm listed in the directory. Please reach out. I'm more than willing to help and get people involved, because, we need future great editors and peer reviewers and authors. And if I can help somebody get involved, it'd be my privilege. So that's it. And please, when in doubt, reach out to me via email. And thank you to AMSSM for the opportunity to do this.